Okay, good morning, hello and welcome. Welcome to House of Light. I'm Sally and this is Adrian Wynter.
Hi.
Hi.
Nice to see you.
Adrian's the co-founder of House of Light, and as you know, he's a teacher of learning love, this really beautiful modality. And today we're going to be talking about the two wounds, the wounds of abandonment and the wound of engulfment. So we're just going to give Facebook a chance to catch up, for you all to come on live. And actually we're sitting here within the House of Light today, we're on the Moroccan terrace balcony.
Yeah. I call this the bridge.
The bridge, yeah.
Takes us from food to learning.
And the water you can hear in the background is the lovely water feature down below us. So I'm just going to take a minute to do a couple of sharings here, and maybe Adrian, you could just share a little bit about the basics of learning love, and then we'll move into the abandonment and the engulfment.
Sure. So the idea of learning love seemed like a strange title for a retreat for me when I first started working with Christian Ander and Amana, who created this model. But the idea of taking time out and making space to learn how it works for us. How do we love ourselves? How do we love another? How do we let somebody come close to us? Has made a lot of sense to me since I started working with it, because the teachers I had about that area of life, about how to relate, how to deal with strong feelings, how to understand how I move through life in connection with other people, and how I can sit with myself. I wasn't taught very well at school. My parents did the best they could, but they weren't that qualified to show me how this can be done. So finding time to learn about that as an adult has been transformational for me. It's completely changed how I experience life, how I experience myself, and how able I am to be with other people in different scenarios. So that's why I've become a learning love teacher, because I'd love to share this work with more people. In fact, that's also why the energy and motivation behind me building this centre with my wife, to make room for more people to come and take the time out to learn about themselves on various different levels. But this is my passion, the learning love work.
Okay, right, we've done some sharing. So I'm going to put the laptop down now and give you my full attention. Hi Cecilia, lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Cecilia.
So, when you first said that you wanted to talk about abandonment and engulfment, I think abandonment seems pretty obvious, but engulfment was the first time I've heard that term. So could you tell us a little bit about what engulfment means and what it actually is?
Sure. So we both carry we all carry both these wounds, abandonment and engulfment. And in the retreats, in the workshops, always there's the question, what does the word engulfment mean? Well, as Sally said, we can probably recognise that feeling when we feel abandoned, when our partner doesn't have enough time for us, or we don't get the promotion we expected to get at work, we're not valued in the way we want. Engulfment is kind of it's kind of the opposite. It's that feeling when you feel smothered, like I can't breathe, like, oh, give me some space. It's when it comes about through feeling that we're being controlled, feeling that someone is pulling on us, is dragging us down, or enveloping us in their needs.
Yeah. And how, if somebody, they're obviously not aware that they're engulfing or overwhelming somebody else, so what sort of patterns might there have been in childhood for that behaviour to come through as an adult?
Well, this is the interesting thing, because when we feel we're being engulfed or abandoned by somebody else, it's not so much to do with their behaviour. Their behaviour is simply a trigger
Yeah.
for old wounds that we have
Yes.
about engulfments or abandonments that we experienced as children, and there's only a certain level of feeling you can deal with as a child, and then when your nervous system's full, you go, oh, I can't feel this anymore. I'll go insane or die of pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
So at that point, it locks into the body, and we find strategies to not feel. So that often is role play. We take on a role in the family. We become the delinquent or the overachiever, or the one that pleases everybody, or the family joker, or we become a very good boy, a very good girl, or the opposite.
Yes.
These are all roles, and we grow up and we can play new roles like the CEO of the company. That's who I am. Or being a teacher, I can hide behind that role when I'm feeling insecure, when I'm with a group. I want to be present with them, but there's times when I'm like, and I might be busy with the whiteboard, I'm hiding behind teacher for a moment. So when somebody else's behaviour triggers this feeling of abandonment or engulfment, then what comes up is a child's state. And it's these feelings we didn't feel earlier on in our life because it was too much.
Yeah.
They come out, and that's when we act out. So if somebody does something quite normal in life, like they say, I said I was going away to work for 2 days, well, they've prolonged the conference, I'm going to be gone for 5 days. And it can produce an overwrought feeling in the partner. That's their abandonment, when they start panicking or thinking he or she doesn't love me because they're going away, or they'll never come back. And you notice with these feelings they're disproportionate to the trigger. That's when we know it's old energy.
Yes, yeah. Okay. Gosh, while you were speaking, my mind, the wheels were really turning there. I'm actually somebody that likes a lot of space. I don't like being smothered or... And yet in childhood, I don't think I received that much love. So I'm not used to getting a lot of attention and a lot of love. So having that all put on me is like, whoa.
So there's two sides to this. Often we go for what's familiar, sometimes even when it doesn't serve us, or even sometimes when it's incredibly uncomfortable, we will recreate situations in our day-to-day relationships now that are familiar. We know where we are. But then also there's can be the reverse of not wanting somebody today to be controlling of me because I'd had enough of that when I was a kid. You felt that?
Oh yes.
So you noticed the lack of love, which would be more to do with abandonment, but also there was an element of control in your parent.
Very much so.
You received.
Yeah, very, very much so. I mean, they did the best that they could. Very, from a very traditional military background. So. So the abandonment and the engulfment are just the different polarities of the same issue, or is it?
Well, they are their own wounds.
Yeah.
They come out as a polarity though in our adult lives because we all, as I said, we all carry both those wounds. Even you meet somebody who's super independent, or anti-dependent. We say, you see anti-dependent behaviour, like, well, I might turn up, I might not. I don't really need anybody.
I've not heard that term before, anti-dependent.
Right. Oh, it's a beauty. So you meet somebody that's very anti-dependent, but they will have a dependent side in there somewhere, and they tend to come out differently on different amounts in different relationships.
Yeah.
So, but interestingly, when we come together with someone and we get to know them well and we start to meld with them, then we trigger each other's wounds. These deep childhood wounds get triggered by our partner, and what tends to happen is the couple polarise. So one person, everything will be great for a few months, the honeymoon period, all about projection, really. You don't really know each other, you're just seeing what you want to see in the other person, and it's lovely, it's great. But as we come closer and more comfortable, maybe we move in or we spend more time together, then we start to trigger each other's deep wounds. And often a trigger will come where somebody doesn't keep that level of attention that was there in the honeymoon period. Maybe they start to re-catch up with their old friends and they're on Facebook a lot of the time.
Which is natural, it's life, isn't it?
That's right, that's right. Then that can trigger somebody's abandonment wound. Oh, why you didn't hear what I just said, you're busy on your phone all the time. Now, if it triggers a deep abandonment wound from childhood, that energy, if it's unconscious, starts to leak out. And it's like, where are you? I need more quality time, where I can put the phone away, why do you need friends? Almost like, it's an unconscious, unsaid, often, acting out. Now, the other person then starts to get triggered with their engulfment. It's like, well, hang on a minute, I want, I love you, but I still want to go to work. I still want to have my social life with my friends, and my projects are important. And so we have this polarity quite often where, so that then triggers the partner, because one says, do you know what, I need a bit of space. Oh, panic button.
Abandonment,
yes. So then the two people polarise. So in that sense, they are polar opposites, because that's how they appear in a relationship. I don't think they are polar opposites, but they present themselves in that way.
And then I guess it's quite difficult for a couple to find their balance again, or to find the trust, because they've been triggered.
That's right, So they're now triggered. That's where this work comes in. Honeymoon periods, I'm useless to you. You don't need me.
Good morning, everyone that's joining. Thank you for being here.
So, but when a couple meld into each other and start to trigger each other, that's when the work begins. And although it often brings difficulty and often brings pain and discomfort, it's actually where the worthwhileness of relating is for me, because the triggers your partner brings up in you are just pointers for where to look to heal, where to dig. And if we come in, if we learn the tools we need to bring that back inside and work with the feelings inside, we can heal the trauma that we experienced as a kid. And we all experienced moments of being abandoned and moments of being controlled. We've all gone through things like birth, potentially. Not for everybody, it's different. We have different sensitivities. But the first day at school, being sent off, you'll be fine with this bunch of strangers, will I? Of course not. No, come back. I want, there's abandonment there. Or engulfment can look like be back before 5. And you're like, what? My mates are out till 7. I want to live my life. I want to be who I want to be. Or no, you shouldn't be a lawyer. We want you to be an artist. We'll send you to art school. And that's another. It's not being accepted and celebrated for our individuality, for who we are when we're children. Gives us that feeling of engulfment. Can do. It's different for each person. So what we're interested in is how that then permeates in our day-to-day lives as adults. And the difference is, as children, we really do look to our caregivers. Our experience of trust is in how they behave towards us. I act, and do my caregivers withdraw love, or do they see me and hear me? Do they appreciate me? Are they safe to be around? Is it even safe to tell them my truth? At that point, as a child, I am helpless to these people. That's where the trust lies. But as an adult, this shifts. As an adult, actually, we're responsible for our feelings, and we're responsible for reparenting ourselves. And we can do that, which allows us then to be in a mature relationship, which is a lot more comfortable, because you don't have the tantrums that go on. And when I say tantrum, for some people that does look like screaming and shouting, lots of arguments. For others, it means going into shock and then not speaking, or hiding in your cave, or withdrawal, or just not turning up. So your partner might be in the house, but they're just not with you.
Gosh. So, for example, if there's like a couple and one half is like really aware of what's happening, but the other one is just like, no, you're just being difficult, it's all your issue. If someone was to come to you for learning love, would both parties in the partnership need to come, or can one person come to look through their own issues and learn about themselves, and then that would bring healing into the relationship or into the work environment or into
No, absolutely.
life?
It is for each individual to decide when they're ready to do the work. So obviously it is very conducive to work with when a couple work together, and ultimately to have mature relating. It's really helpful if both people have done at least enough work to share the language, to understand what it is that's happening, because but to begin with, the process is all about the individual. It's all about myself finding out who I am, what makes me tick, why do I feel like this when these normal things that happen in day-to-day life or in relationship happen, why is that such a trigger for me?
And maybe noticing what ticks it off, or noticing within yourself.
And that's a lot of the work we work with, is observing what specifically was the trigger. Exactly. Which word did they use? Was it their facial expression? Was it the number of people in the room? Was it that this happened in front of people? How was it? What triggered me? And then I can start to look at, when it triggered me, what do I feel in the body? And from there I can go, okay, this feeling in the body, is it familiar? Is it just this person doing this to me now? Or, maybe I've felt this before. This is maybe older than the situation I'm dealing with today. And then we can look at the emotions and the beliefs that come with those emotions.
Yes.
Because when we were little and we tucked a lot of this emotion away into our bodies, and the body remembers,
it does.
Often comes with that is a message, a belief with the anger or the grief or the fear will be a message like it's not safe to show myself, or it doesn't matter what I do, they will never love me.
Yeah.
And these messages get so hardwired that by the time we're adults, we actually believe that's reality.
Yes. And it's so innate within us, we don't even realise we're doing it a lot of the time as well.
Of course, it's unconscious until we bring it into our consciousness, which is this whole practice of observing. How does this make me feel? What's going on for me?
Have you noticed with, like, in the work that you do in retreats or with the people that come to see you privately, is there sort of like, I don't want to use the word trend, but a sort of similarity between like abandonment and things that maybe have happened in their childhood and how that shows up in their adult life? Is there like a specific behaviour that they permeate as showing up as abandonment? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, these are the strategies I was talking about earlier that we use to not feel at the time as children. So if classic one for me was, as a kid, it was quite tense in my household. I didn't grow up in a very functional household, and my role, if you like, was to try and jolly everyone along, to sort of be cute and happy and laughy. And as an adult, I used to use humour to cover everything. I could talk about the most awful situation, or if that came up in conversation, stuff that's not serious, just not funny, I could joke about it. Not only could I joke about it, I could not joke about it. That was my way of dealing with it. It was one of my many ways of dealing with it until it was pointed out to me. That was just, making the jokes was just, it was a way of not having to feel the pain of that situation. So, what I learned as a child, I continued to use as an adult until I became aware of it, and I still love having a sense of humour, and it's not always that clear, but I have a choice now. I can respond, and I joke a lot less now, and I can feel stuff instead of just making a joke out of it.
Okay. And the engulfment as well, I guess people that experience that find it hard to connect because they're continually pushing people away. So ultimately they might want love and be yearning for love and that deeper connection, but they end up pushing it away because they don't know how to handle it and to relate to it.
That's right. So as we come into, when we consider letting somebody in close, opening our heart to them, going out with them, spending time with somebody in an intimate fashion, there's three worries that come up for us. There's the worry that we will open our heart, let them in and they'll abandon us. And then there's the worry that we will go in and lose ourselves completely.
Yeah.
And you know, where will my friends be? Where will my drive to do my dreams come true that I want to do outside the relationship? And the third is boredom, that we might get in there and then not know what to do with, and not feel
Oh gosh,
fulfilled.
I wouldn't have thought of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So somebody that's strongly in their engulfment wound will be worried about losing their life. It's like, well, I'll see you Tuesday, Wednesday. And so then often they can really start with a great relationship through the honeymoon period, but when it starts getting closer, they'll sabotage the relationship. As you say, they may want to have intimate connection, but it's simply too frightening. Because if you've been smothered as a child, or controlled, or not given the space and encouragement to be yourself, it's very painful. And as an adult, you don't want to feel that again. So if someone comes closer and starts to rely on you to be there when they come home from work, or to hold your hand when the aeroplane takes off, or whatever, that can trigger a big feeling of like, get off me.
There's you might not have heard of it, but there's a TV program that I've got quite attached to called Married at First Sight. And literally, these couples marry at the altar. They don't know who they're going to marry. And it is a reality TV show. But I'm fascinated by it because you see these couples moving through so much. All of them are desperate for love. All of them really want that connection. And the majority of them have got major wounds and behavioural patterns as to why the relationships never move forward or become more established. And I just think it's really interesting that so many people actually yearn for the love. They yearn for the romance, the connection, the intimacy, but can't relate. When it actually comes to it, they don't know how to do it because of what we've maybe experienced in childhood.
And many of us, it just wasn't modelled well.
Yes,
So, and really what we learn from our parents or our caregivers, we connect with that. As when we're born, our DNA is like, that's a man, that's a woman, and that connection is what a love relationship looks like. Even if they're battering each other around the head with a frying pan and are completely cold with each other, or there's no affection, or we see that is a love connection. So we grow up. How would we know any better unless we go and learn?
So when someone comes to see you, or they're on a learning love retreat, when we get back to those good days of being able to gather together, how do you help people recognise their patterns that may be indicative of these wounds?
Well, we do a little bit of theory around one small part of the learning love model. Then we'll use guided meditations to help somebody connect with how that is for you. And then we do experiential exercises so that you actually embody, you get to feel, for instance, I can have somebody else represent a difficult situation or person in my life, and then see how does it feel to move towards them whilst really listening to my body, whilst really being observing my sensations.
So it's a real embodiment practice. It's not just
absolutely.
theory.
Because by embodying it during a retreat, when I then go back to my normal life, when I feel that feeling come up, I'm more likely to recognise it and say, this is what's happening for me. If I just learn about it here, a few weeks after the retreat, it's not really going to be doing much for me. This is what I love about the way they teach this work, is that it really shifts, it sets things running so that I heal myself, which is ultimately what we're here to do.
Absolutely. And to be able to enjoy relationships and not just personal relationships. This is relevant within work environments as well, isn't it?
Work environments and the ability to create, to really bring your gift to the planet. That involves an awful lot of relating, any which way. You have to go down to the builders merchants or ask your boss for promotion or or have the guts to go out there, or maybe find somebody that helps you go and do live stream, which I never thought I'd be doing. That by being in touch with the feelings inside, we heal them, we loosen them up, and that, out of that comes a lot of creative energy. Because whilst I don't know what's going on for me, whilst it's unconscious, I'm holding it all together. It's like, oh, I mustn't be angry, that's not polite in modern life, you know. Well, I'm a man, I mustn't be frightened. And the grief, well, definitely not going near the grief.
You
I don't even know what that is.
Cry as a
let
man,
alone my
can you?
shame.
Yes.
And what happens, you hold all those down, you hold your joy down.
Yeah.
And the more you work with those and really let those feelings come through in a conscious way, that's not really blasting out at somebody else. It's using the tools of learning love to be with it, to welcome these things in, to meet them with curiosity, to meet these feelings with curiosity, shifts them. And then we don't have to be holding them together all the time. And my experience of it is a lot more joy comes through.
Yeah.
And it's strange, it just pops in for no reason whatsoever at times. But I also connect that with creativity. It allows me to feel empowered to move forward and
express yourself.
Express stuff that I actually think is worthwhile, rather than just surviving and muddling through and feeling like life's happening to me. I can take part in life because of
you're in it and you're aware of it and you're feeling it. You're feeling it. Oh, it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. We've got a few people joining us. Hi Julia, hi Cecilia, I think Anne was there as well, and Siobhan.
Hi.
If any of you have got any questions for Adrian that you'd like to ask, whether it's about abandonment or engulfment or anything else, you know, we can open this up to a conversation. You know, just pop your question in the comments and we will answer.
We'll answer them.
We'll answer them, yes. So yeah, it'd be lovely to hear your thoughts and your feelings about this conversation. I always find it so fascinating because we sat down this morning and I said, well, here's my list of questions, and it was like, what is engulfment? I think I know what abandonment is, and we were just open to where the conversation sort of really takes us.
Well, I could talk about this forever.
It's your passion.
Yeah,
it's your passion. It's your purpose.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And you know, you work with people online as well now, obviously, because it's a bit more difficult to connect.
Yeah. So I'm hoping to start doing 3-day retreats with, it'll have to be 10 people or 9 people, and myself in the
Here
room.
in
Because
Spain,
at the moment we've just gone from 4 to 10 people in the room. So if that continues, maybe I can start opening up and doing retreats again, which I'd love to do. Meanwhile, I do one-to-one sessions and couple sessions. I was talking about the abandonment and the engulfment, how it happens as children. How that shows up in relationship, unfortunately, is that it sabotages us. Often our child's state takes over. When it's triggered, it takes over. It's speaking for us, it's acting for us. It is us, it's our responsibility. But actually, you sometimes you may have had this where you react in a certain way, and days later you think, oh my God, why did I say that? Or who even was that shouting at that person? Or why didn't I speak out if you've gone? I used to go into shock for days at a time. If I was dealing with an angry woman, I'd just go into shock. I couldn't say anything. And then I come back out that days later wondering what's happening. So it's our longing to be intimate with other people, it gets sabotaged because if we're unconscious of this stuff, we leak it onto them, which pushes them away, or we're too frightened to let them in. So we say we want to be close to them, but then we mess up the meeting, or we're not honest and authentic with them about what we're doing. So they then lose trust and move away. There's so many ways this can play out, and so working with this stuff for ourselves allows us to be able to choose to go in and stay present and be intimate with people without sabotaging, without wondering why we messed it up again.
Yes.
or why we're on our own, or why am I in another relationship that I don't want to be in.
Yes, yeah.
Because
why does everyone leave me?
Yeah.
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 Certainly, that's in this program that I was telling you about. It's from an outsider's point of view, it looks quite obvious. You think, but you're shouting at them again, or you're creating a problem where there isn't really a problem. From the outside, it seems quite obvious, but when you're in it,
when you're in it, when the child space takes
it.
over, it's like if I say to one of my little girls, or when they say, I want that toy in the window, it's no good saying, well, we'll come back in 2.5 weeks. And, they want it now.
Yeah.
You want that attention now. You want to know what's happening, or you want space. They want freedom to go and play in the garden now. They don't want to sit and eat their dinner. Yeah. They want that freedom. So it's very immediate, and it doesn't work well for adults to communicate in that way. Particularly because we then trigger the other person, and you end up with a playground spat.
Yeah. So I guess when we become more aware of our patterns or where our wound is, we just have to take that deep breath. If we find that situation coming in again, we have to be aware enough of ourselves to take that deep breath and take charge of the situation and our own responses.
Well, it's not so much taking charge of the situation out there. So it's very much when you notice yourself coming up and out. So if I'm complaining, or I'm blaming, or I'm judging, those are 3 key things. I'm up and out. I'm doing that. I'm blaming the other person or the government, or I'm complaining about the situation, really because I don't want to feel the painful feelings inside that have been triggered.
Okay.
So when we come up and out, you see that, catch it, come do the opposite, down and in. Yeah. Go and sit on your own and go, okay, I'm curious. I feel this part of me is disturbed. How does it feel? Where do I feel it in the body? What emotions are there? Is it familiar? Is this an old feeling? How old was I when this went in? Yeah. It pops up for you. And what beliefs come with this? So by really taking the time, whenever you feel triggered with other people, to take space and work on it on your own, coming back down and in, examine what's going on inside.
Yeah. And if the other person that you're having this situation with isn't as aware as you, I guess you just have to say, let's just take a moment. I just need a bit of space, because otherwise they're going to try and escalate the situation.
Sure. So sometimes with a couple they can have a neutral phrase, especially if they have a very volatile relationship, a neutral phrase that says something like, I don't want to put energy into this conversation now, I will be back, and you take time out. Or, I'm feeling emotional, I'm going to take responsibility for my emotions. Yeah. Never the other way around, never saying you're feeling emotional. Or, I sense you're triggered.
Yes.
So that won't help. Yes. It's a personal thing. We have to
own it.
And it's taking responsibility for our feelings, not for the sake of anybody else, but actually taking responsibility by saying, right, I'm an adult now, with the resources I have, I'm going to parent this wound, I'm going to sit with this pain and bring it into the light. When it's in the shadows, it has power over my life. It will not be serving me. If I invite it in and say, okay, I'm interested in my anger, I'm curious, what does that anger want? What's it saying? There's some grief, we'll bring that in. And for me, it's like I bring them in all around the table to have a cup of tea with. And whenever that one pops up, I bring it in. They're my friends. These energies are my friends. They are who I am. So I don't want them in the shadows, because then I'm going to go and hang out with people in the hope that they'll like the whole of me, but half of me is back there. And when it comes up, they don't like it. If I'm connected with all these parts of myself, connected in a way, not showing them, not shouting them at other people, but connected with them, then I can be authentic with each person I meet. I'm much more likely to be authentic. So I end up with relationships that will last, because the person has met all of me in the first place, not the brochure.
Not the facade.
We did a brochure and packed in the back in the small print is, and I might freak out, get angry with you if you say you're going to work, you know. But if it's all there, and I'm taking responsibility for my feelings, then I can share in a way that brings me connection that tends to be more fulfilling.
So it sounds really valuable as well for the workplace.
Absolutely.
Because imagine if you've got a controlling boss or just somebody that's really difficult, you can actually make your workplace a lot more harmonious as well.
And again, the creativity, things flow. If we're more connected with how it is for us to be here, then there's more chance that we can empathise with somebody else's situation. And that's going to bring a more productive relationship all round.
Yeah, for the whole office, because the whole energy will change as well, won't it?
Yeah.
Or virtual office, should we say? Hi, let me just say hello to, I don't know if you can read as well.
I can't make my
there's
glasses.
Joyce. Hello, Joyce. Hi, Malfred and Cecilia and Joy. Julia Joy was there as well. Hello, lovely. Again, we'll just put it out there if anyone's got any questions. Feel free to put in the comments and we'll answer them. Equally, if you're watching this on the replay, just do a hashtag replay with your question and Adrian will get back to you with a reply. So, Adrian, you do one-to-ones online now?
Yep.
So if anybody wants to get in touch with Adrian, you can do that through House of Light.
Through House of Light, yeah. My phone number's there. I'm on WhatsApp.
And
or email.
Yep. And hopefully soon we'll be getting back into in-person retreats. In-person retreats here as well.
That's my delight. I love working with the group. And one of the beauties of working with groups is that they trigger one another.
Yes,
not always.
Of course, yeah.
Some groups not the case, but often there's a certain amount of dynamic with the group, and it's so beautiful to work with because that's when you start to see, this feeling I've been triggered by with this person here, I thought that was my wife or my husband.
Yes.
You know? But then this person, I've just met them, and yet there's this same feelings are there, and then you start to see, okay, maybe this is something I'm carrying with me, and we can work with that. And so the amplified energy of working with a group who've taken the time out to open up and work with their vulnerability is very special. Because there's so few places where it's welcome, where we feel safe to do that in our normal lives.
Exactly.
Once we've got going with that, we create the safety ourselves. So I can be in very hectic situations in normal life, but I can create my own safe space because I'm used to working with this. But it's really helpful to do a retreat where you're held in a space where you're not going to be challenged. You leave, if you can, you leave the internet alone. You're not going back into your work situation or your family situation. So there's no pressure to go back into protection.
And you can actually say the things that maybe you've never felt safe to say before or to express before or to release
And also
before.
you get to see how some stuff that we feel like is just our personal difficulty, you suddenly realise, the whole room understands this. Everyone has. A lot of this is universal.
Yes, but not necessarily talked about or appreciated, should we say. Amazing. I love it. I love having these talks with you. I really do.
Too, it's great.
Okay, let's have a look. I think somebody's written something there. Oh, it's Carol. Hi, Carol. She's in the Scottish Borders. Saying, hi, lovely. So good to see you and to hear what's being said. It resonates so much. Thank you for being with us, Carol. Okay, is there anything else that you'd like to share about what we've been talking about today?
So let's think, what else is there with abandonment? And well, there's so much. I don't know where else to go with that. How long do we have, Sally?
We can be here as long as we want, actually. We've been on for 40 minutes.
Okay. Well, just to give a simple, as I was saying, without spending time to share the tools, the simple thing is to really, when you notice a small situation creates a big feeling, this tells you this is old stuff, this is old wounds, usually from childhood. And then it is a good practice to take time out on your own and try to meet those feelings without judgment. it's the hardest thing.
Judgment, oh my goodness.
Because we have all of these beliefs that we weren't born with, we borrowed them along the way from our teachers, from our parents, from situations we were in. And a lot of those beliefs judge our feelings. Like, you shouldn't feel like this, get on with it, don't make a fuss, don't be so emotional.
Be quiet.
So trying to meet those feelings without judgment. And the best way to do that is to meet it with curiosity. So to go, okay, I'm disturbed, there's a part of me that's disturbed. You can even pick up a pillow and use it to represent the younger part of you that's disturbed. And you can say, okay, there's disturbance here. I'm curious, what is it? Where do I feel it? What colour is it? What shape is it? Anything you can get from there. And to really sit with it yourself. Yeah. So that's a very little glimpse into the beginnings of being able to observe really when I do that, I'm observing what is it to be Adrian after all the years of conditioning and experience I've had with this trigger in front of me now. Just come inside. What is this experience? What is it? What are the details? What does it really feel like? Rather than blocking it with, I'll have a drink, I'll go somewhere else, I'll make a phone call, anything but feel it, which I can keep doing. Most people will spend their whole lives doing that. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm getting a great lot of mileage out of the experiment of finding out who it is that is here. What is this experience in this lifetime, right here, right now? What does this feel like? Yeah. And it starts to, after taking notice for a while, after observing it, this is vertical living, it starts to inform my horizontal living. It starts to inform, where am I going to go next? What work do I want to do next? What do I want to build next? Who do I want to hang out with? It informs that, and this for me has really shifted how I enjoy my life to a great extent.
Because you're no longer the victim of your experiences in your past. You're able to live it consciously through freedom, through joy. Through,
and it is, I know it's cliched as you like, but it's an amazing journey. It's fascinating. It definitely, there's some discomfort at times. It can be excruciating, and there's times when I really don't want to take a step that I know I need to take. I went through something recently. I was 4 or 5 days knowing that I had to go below the anger and face what was underneath it, but I didn't want to go to the fear, and I went there. But the journey just is so vast and so enthralling for me.
Freedom. Freedom to be you, beyond the conditioning and
to find out what that is. You know, I used to enjoy a lot of travelling around the world, all sorts of experiences, adrenaline sports, learning new things, hanging out with lots of different people, lots of stimulus from the outside. And I can still enjoy all of those things, but actually now I'm fascinated with the journey inside. It's just as much, there's just as much experience to be had in there. And it's infinite. I'll be able to do it when I'm in a wheelchair or my deathbed. You know,
we'll still be going.
The paragliding might be not possible at some point.
Oh, I'll help you off with your wheelchair. Oh, brilliant. Adrian, it's been lovely. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you so much for helping me get out here, Sally. And thank you all for joining and listening.
And do get in touch with us here at House of Light if you've got any questions at all, or if you'd like to connect with Adrian, just reach out to us anytime. We'd love to hear from you. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone, and we'll see you again soon.
Have a great day. Bye.
Lots of love.